Have you ever noticed that sometimes you chant Amitabha Buddha only when life feels dangerous or unstable? As if you are rushing to call an emergency hotline. Have you ever wondered whether your chanting is really changing your destiny from within? Or if you are just asking an invisible power to shield you while you keep living in the same old way? Welcome back to the channel, my friend. Today we are going to sit down and talk very honestly about something many people do but rarely examine: deeply chanting Amitabha Buddha. On the surface, it looks simple. You join your palms. You repeat 4 or 6 syllables again and again. But beneath that sound, there is a crucial difference. Are you chanting only to ask for protection, blessings, and good luck? Or are you chanting as a path of awakening, repentance, and true transformation of destiny? In this long, story-based sharing, we are going to walk through 3 main layers. First, how most of us start chanting from fear, from insecurity, from the desire to be protected and helped. Second, what changes when your chanting slowly turns from a transaction into a real path of turning your heart, understanding cause and effect, and reprogramming your destiny. Third, how to shift, in practical, daily ways, from chanting only for please help me to chanting that also means I am willing to wake up and change. So imagine we are sitting together in a quiet room. Outside, the city keeps moving. But inside, for this hour, we give ourselves permission to be honest with our own heart. Let us begin with something very human. Most people do not start chanting out of pure philosophical curiosity. They start chanting because something hurts. A parent is in the hospital. A child is in trouble. There is an exam, a lawsuit, a surgery, a breakup, an accident, a crisis, or maybe the pain is less visible: a long depression, anxiety attacks, insomnia, and emptiness that success cannot fill. In those moments, your usual tools fail. Your money cannot buy certainty. Your intelligence cannot guarantee the outcome. Your social connections cannot stop illness or death. Your heart feels helpless. Then, from somewhere, the suggestion comes: chant Amitabha Buddha. Maybe your grandmother used to whisper it when she was scared. Maybe a friend sent you a message saying, "Just try chanting. It helped me." Maybe you heard it at a funeral and felt a strange calm in the sound. So you try. Use it, or stand, or lie awake in bed, and you repeat Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha Buddha. In that moment, what are you really asking for? If you listen closely to your own heart, you might hear something like this: "Please, let my mother be safe. Please, let this illness be cured. Please, let the exam go smoothly. Please, let me not lose my job. Please, let this disaster turn away." There is nothing wrong with this. It is natural to ask for help when we are in danger. The heart that cries out is not evil. It is vulnerable. It is frightened. But if we stop there, if chanting remains only a spiritual emergency call, then we are using an unimaginably deep path in the shallowest possible way. It is as if you have been given the key to a vast treasury of wisdom, compassion, and inner freedom, and you only use it to scratch your lottery tickets. Let me tell you a story about a man named Daniel, because sometimes a single life can show us many layers of our own. Daniel was in his mid-30s when he first started chanting. Before that, the name Amitabha Buddha meant almost nothing to him. His life was busy and noisy: work, social media, drinks after work, arguments with his partner, endless scrolling at night. One day, his father had a heart attack. The doctors said the situation was critical. The whole family rushed to the hospital. Machines beeped. Nurses hurried. His mother cried silently in a corner. Daniel felt like he had been dropped into a nightmare. Suddenly, the man he had always assumed would be there forever was lying in a fragile body, connected to tubes. An aunt, the quiet religious one in the family, came over and said softly, "If you want, You can chant Amitabha Buddha for your father. It will bring him peace and help in whatever happens. Daniel did not know what he believed, but he had no better idea. So he sat by his father's bed and began to whisper, Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha Buddha. His first motivation was simple and raw: please, let my dad live. 4 hours, he chanted, sometimes aloud, sometimes silently. In between he cried, argued with reality, promised vague things to the universe. Over the next days, his father's condition stabilized. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. The worst danger passed. In his mind, Daniel immediately made a link: I chanted, and my father did not die. Amitabha Buddha protected us. From that point, whenever something scared him, he chanted. When the company announced layoffs, when his partner threatened to leave, when he had to fly and was afraid of turbulence, he chanted. It was all still at the level of please protect me. Again, nothing wrong. But his life, his habits, his values remained basically the same. He still drank excessively, still lied when it was convenient, still ignored his health, still exploded at his partner, still scrolled away his nights. In other words, his outer actions were planting one kind of seed, while his lips were calling on Amitabha for safety. This inner contradiction created a subtle tension. Sometimes, after chanting in a panic and then going back to his usual careless ways, he felt an uncomfortable question rising in his chest. Am I really respecting what I am chanting? Or am I just using a sacred name like a lucky charm? He pushed the question away. Until one night, he had drunk too much at a party. On the way home, driving half awake, he almost crashed into a barrier on a rainy highway. In that split second before impact, his whole being instinctively screamed inside, Amitabha Buddha. By some strange combination of reflex, luck, and circumstances, he managed to regain control of the wheel. The car swerved, skidded, but did not hit anything. He drove home shaking, sitting in his dark living room afterward. The question he had been avoiding walked right up to him and refused to leave. He whispered into the silence, how many times are you going to ask to be protected while you keep walking right into danger yourself? How long can you keep calling on a name of infinite compassion while you treat your own life like it is cheap? In that moment, for the first time, he understood that chanting is not a game. He realized that every time he chanted Amitabha Buddha, he was calling on the vow of a being who represents infinite wisdom and compassion. And yet, his daily actions were not moving toward wisdom and compassion at all. He was asking to be saved while actively creating more causes of suffering for himself and others. A new thought arose. What if chanting is not just about asking for protection from consequences, but about changing the way I live so I stop creating so many painful consequences in the first place? That night did not immediately turn him into a saint, but it marked a turning point. Previously, his inner attitude had been I do what I want. When I get scared, I chant and hope Amitabha will cover for me. Now, a new attitude began to grow. If I truly respect this name, I have to start respecting the law of cause and effect and the preciousness of my own and others' lives. I cannot keep living recklessly and then asking for rescue. What changed? His chanting began to shift from pure protection, seeking to the beginning of awakening. Awakening, in this context, does not mean some dramatic cosmic experience. It means waking up to the reality that your life is shaped by what you think, say, and do, and that chanting is meant to support your effort to change those patterns, not replace it. Let us slow down here and look at these two modes more clearly, because they exist inside almost everyone who chants. In the first mode, chanting is like a phone call to a powerful benefactor. The inner script goes something like this. Amitabha Buddha, I am in trouble again. Please fix this. Please protect me from harm. Please make sure things go the way I hope. In this mode, you might chant very intensely during crises, and then barely at all when things are calm. Your chanting is emotional, often panicked, full of demands. When situations turn out well, you feel grateful for a while, then slip back into habits. When they do not turn out the way you wanted, you may feel disappointed or even lose faith. In the second mode, chanting is like returning home to the deepest truth about your life. The inner script sounds more like this. Amitabha Buddha. I see that my life is the result of my past causes. I see that I am full of greed, anger, fear. I take refuge in your wisdom and compassion, not as an excuse to keep living blindly, but as strength to face my own karma and change my ways. Please guide me to understand, to repent, to act differently. I accept that there are consequences I must go through, but I ask that through your compassion, they become chances to awaken, not chances to sink deeper. In this mode, you chant not only when you are scared, but also when you are calm. You chant not only with your mouth, but with your choices. You gradually align your daily life with the virtues you associate with Amitabha: patience, kindness, honesty, respect for life. In the first mode, you treat Amitabha like an emergency parachute. In the second mode, you treat Amitabha like a compass and a path. Now, you might say, but I am just an ordinary person. I am not ready for deep awakening. Is it wrong to chant for protection? Absolutely not. Protection seeking is often the doorway. When you are drowning, you shout for help. If there were no lifeline at all, most people would never turn towards spiritual practice. The problem is not that you start there. The problem is if you never move beyond that. In a way, Amitabha's compassion is like a mother's love. When a child is small and runs to their mother crying, "I am scared, help me," she does not say, "Go away." You should be seeking awakening, not comfort. She holds them, comforts them, protects them. But if that child grows into an adult and still only wants to hide behind their mother, every time life gets hard, refusing to learn, refusing to work, refusing to take responsibility, then the relationship is stuck at a childish level. The mother's deepest wish for her child is not just that they be protected, but that they grow into someone who understands, loves, and protects others. Amitabha's vow is similar. This great symbol of compassion and wisdom does not only exist to make your worldly life slightly more comfortable. The ultimate aim is for you to awaken from the nightmares created by your own greed, anger, and ignorance, and to rediscover your own Buddha nature. So how does chanting help you move from protection mode to transformation mode? Let us go back to Daniel for a moment and watch how his practice changed in the months after his near accident. The first thing he noticed was that his chanting became more regular. Instead of only chanting in emergencies, he set aside a small time each day, even 10 minutes in the morning. Join his palms and recite the name. At first, his mind was noisy. Thoughts about work, regrets, and fantasies swirled around. But every time he noticed his mind wandering, he gently brought it back to the sound of Amitabha Buddha. This daily rhythm created a small island of stability in his day. It was like meeting a very patient friend, someone who listened without judgment. The second change was more subtle. He began to connect his chanting to reflection on his own actions. After a day where he had lost his temper with his partner, he did not just chant, "Amitabha Buddha, please make us stop fighting." He also added, silently, "I see that my anger hurt her. I see that my pride makes me refuse to apologize. Please help me find the courage to admit my fault and change." This is repentance, not in the sense of self-hatred, but in the sense of honestly seeing where your actions have gone against compassion and wisdom. One evening, after a particularly harsh argument, he sat in front of his small altar, joined his palm, and said, "Today I spoke cruelly. I made someone I love cry. I cannot take those words back, but I can acknowledge the damage and vow to be more careful. Amitabha Buddha, I offer this mistake to you. Help me to learn deeply from it, not to repeat it mindlessly." He felt his chest ache. Tears came. For the first time, he understood that chanting is not only about calming himself down. It is about standing in front of the mirror of the Buddha's compassion and daring to see his own reflection clearly. The third change was in the way he understood protection. Before, he thought of protection as please make this bad thing not happen to me. Now, he began to notice that sometimes protection looked like a difficult event arriving in a wider way, or at a time when he had the strength to handle it, or in a form that forced him to see something he had been ignoring. When a project at work failed, instead of immediately chanting, "Please erase this failure," he sat down and chanted to steady his heart. Then asked, "What is this trying to teach me? Where did my greed or carelessness play a role? How can I respond with integrity now?" In this new mentality, chanting was not a magic eraser. It was a way to bring his mind into alignment with reality, so that he could respond wisely. He also began to understand that one of the greatest protections Amitabha and give is not from external events, but from the inner impulses that push him toward harm. For example, one late night, he felt a pull to drive again after drinking. The old him would have ignored the warning. This time, he paused, joined his palms, silently recited a few rounds of Amitabha Buddha, and in that small space, his better judgment returned. He ordered a taxi instead. In that moment, protection did not come in the form of a miraculous rescue from a crash. It came in the form of preventing him from creating the conditions for disaster at all. This is how chanting begins to rewire your destiny. Destiny, in the Buddhist sense, is not a fixed script written by some external god. It is the unfolding of your own past and present actions. Each thought, each word, each deed plants a seed. Over time, those seeds ripen into tendencies, into circumstances, into joys and sufferings. When you chant mechanically but continue to plant the same harmful seeds, your destiny does not change much. When you chant with sincerity and allow that sound to soften your heart, to remind you of cause and effect, to support your effort to act differently, then you are rewriting the script from within. Let us make this very concrete with a few everyday examples. Imagine you are about to lie in a small but convenient way. A false excuse to avoid responsibility, a slight distortion to make yourself look better in front of others. Old pattern, you tell the lie. Then later, maybe, you chant to ask that nothing bad come of it. New pattern, you feel the impulse. You pause. You silently say Amitabha Buddha once. And you ask yourself, if I truly respect this name and the law of cause and effect, do I really want to plant one more seed of deception? Perhaps you still lie sometimes. But even one instance where you choose honesty instead is already a small shift in destiny. Another scenario. You are exhausted and irritated. A family member says something slightly annoying. Your habitual pattern is to snap, to wound with words, to defend your ego at all cost. Old pattern, you explode. Then later chant for harmony. New pattern, you feel the anger rising. You catch yourself, whisper Amitabha Buddha under your breath, and let that sound remind you. My words carry consequence. The person in front of me is also a being who suffers. I can still express my needs, but I do not have to throw verbal knives. Maybe your tone is still not perfect, but it is gentler than before. The knot of conflict that would have been tied very tightly is now only half tied, easier to untie later. In this way, chanting becomes like a bridge between the ideal of compassion and the messy reality of your reaction. It gives you a second breath in which you can choose differently. Now, you might be thinking, this all makes sense, but my mind is so restless when I chant. I constantly drift into daydreams or worry. Does that mean my chanting is useless? No. Restlessness is part of the process. Think of chanting as training a wild horse. At first, the horse runs everywhere. You gently bring it back. It runs again. You bring it back again. It becomes less frantic. Every time you notice your mind wandering and bring it back to Amitabha Buddha, you are building a habit returning. That same habit will help you in daily life to return from anger, from fear, from confusion, back to awareness. Even if, during chanting, your mind is not perfectly calm, your repeated intention to remember the Buddha, to remember compassion and wisdom, is doing quiet work in the background of your consciousness. It is also important to remember that Amitabha, as a symbol of boundless compassion, is not waiting for your chanting to be perfect before responding. The point is not to impress a distant judge with flawless concentration. The point is to show up with sincerity, again and again, and let the practice slowly do its work. Let us talk for a moment about another subtle misunderstanding. Some people think, if I chant enough, Amitabha will erase my karma. I do not need to worry about my past action. This is a dangerous misunderstanding. Compassion does not erase the law of cause and effect. It works within it. That means your negative actions still have consequences. But through sincere repentance, through good deeds, through chanting and aligning with wisdom, the way those consequences ripen can change. A heavy karmic seed may ripen as a lighter event. A potential tragedy might become a worry. A severe illness might become an opportunity to re-examine your life and grow. However, to expect that chanting will let you completely escape the results of harming others while you keep harming them is like expecting to clean a room by spraying perfume without actually picking up the trash. True refuge in Amitabha includes the willingness to face and correct your own behavior. So when you chant, you can include thoughts like these. I know I have harmed others in many ways, knowingly and unknowingly. I cannot even remember all my past action. But from now on, I wish to be more careful. Please help me see my blind spots. Please help me meet the consequences of my past with courage and patience, and not create more harm in response. This attitude transforms chanting from a magical wish into a partnership between your effort and awakened compassion. You might now ask, how can I tell if my chanting is starting to move from protection, seeking toward real awakening? Here are a few signs. Not as rigid rules, but as gentle indicators. First, you notice that your mood before and after chanting is different. You might be chaotic, angry, or anxious. After, even if the problem is not solved, there is a bit more space in your heart, a bit more softness. Second, you begin to feel embarrassed when your actions clearly contradict what you chant. For example, you chant about compassion and then find yourself delighting in someone's misfortune. The gap between your mouth and your mind becomes harder to ignore. That discomfort is a good sign. It shows your conscience is waking up. Third, you naturally become more interested in understanding the teachings behind the name. You want to know what Amitabha's vows mean, what the Pure Land represents, how cause and effect operate, how to live in a way that aligns with wisdom. Fourth, your chanting spills over into spontaneous moments. You begin to remember the name not only when you sit formally, but also when waiting in line, walking, or facing a stressful conversation. It becomes a background music that accompanies you, reminding you to stay awake. And perhaps most importantly, people around you slowly feel that you are changing. They may not use spiritual language. They might just say, you are less explosive, or you listen more, or you are more patient lately. That is the fruit. At this point, your chanting is clearly doing more than just chasing good luck. It is reshaping your character, and therefore your destiny. As we move toward the end of this sharing, I want to come back to you, personally, right now. If you are someone who chants Amitabha Buddha, ask yourself softly, what am I usually asking for when I chant? Maybe you will find that 9 times out of 10, your heart is saying, please protect me. Please fix this. Please give me what I want. Do not attack yourself for this. Just see it clearly. Then, consider adding a new layer. The next time you sit down to chant, before you begin, silently say something like, today I chant not only to ask for protection, but also to confess my ignorance and to open my heart to change. Amitabha Buddha, please do not only shield me from pain. Please also show me what I need to see, even when it is uncomfortable. Please help me use each challenge as a step toward awakening. If you hold such an intention even a little, your chanting will begin to taste different. I also want to talk about one more thing, the fear that if you stop chanting for protection, bad things will happen. Some people feel almost superstitious if I miss one day of chanting. Amitabha will be disappointed and stop protecting me. This fear turns the relationship into a tense contract. It is not healthy. Amitabha's compassion, as taught in the tradition, is not conditional like that. It is not waiting to punish you for missing a session. The aim of regular chanting is not to meet a quota, but to keep your own mind stable and tuned to wisdom. If you miss a day, you can simply begin again the next. You might even use the experience as a lesson. I see how easily distraction pulls me away. I am grateful I can start again. Your sincerity over time matters more than a rigid record. Before we close, let us imagine a possible inner dialogue between you and Amitabha. Not as a literal conversation, but as a way of feeling the shift from protection, seeking to awakening seeking. You Amitabha Buddha, please make my life easier. Amitabha, I can soften your path, but I also want you to become stronger and clearer. Are you willing to see the causes of your suffering? I am scared. I just want the problems to go away. Amitabha, I understand your fear. Let me hold you. But remember, as long as your habits remain the same, new problems will appear. Let us work together. I will support you, and you will practice. You then please help me not only avoid disasters, but also stop creating them. Amitabha, that is the beginning of true refuge. Of course, this is just a poetic way of expressing something wordless. At the heart of all of it is this simple truth: every time you sincerely chant Amitabha Buddha, you are turning your face, even for a moment, toward a field of infinite compassion and wisdom. That turning has the power to comfort you, but it also has the power to challenge you to live differently. If you allow both, not only will you feel more protected, you will also become, step by step, a protector yourself, someone whose presence brings more peace, kindness, and understanding into this world. If this sharing has touched something in you, I would love to hear in the comments how you first started chanting Amitabha Buddha. Was it during a crisis? Was it out of curiosity? How has your relationship with this practice changed over time? Do you still chant mainly for protection? Or have you felt it slowly turning into a path of awakening? Your story might give someone else the courage to go one step deeper. If you would like to keep exploring together themes like awakening, wisdom, cause and effect, compassion, practice, and destiny, you are warmly invited to subscribe to this channel. Give this video a like, and share it with friends or family who also chant but may never have really asked themselves why. If you feel that these long, heart-centered sharings support your journey and you would like to support the channel in return, you can also consider becoming a member, so that we can continue creating content that walks with you through your real struggles, not just your ideal image. Thank you for staying until the end. The fact that you listened all the way here tells me that in your heart, Amitabha Buddha is already more than just a lucky phrase. May your chanting bring you comfort when you are afraid. May it also bring you courage when you need to face yourself. And may every Amitabha Buddha you utter from today on not only ask for protection, but also whisper a deeper vow to awaken, to change, and to walk gently in this world.
At the end of the day, we all need something that brings us back to ourselves. Something that reminds us to slow down, breathe, and stay centered. Simple bracelet can do exactly that. Every bead you touch brings your mind back to calm, back to clarity, back to the present moment. If one of the bracelets you just saw resonates with you, you can find the purchase link in the video description and explore more beautiful styles in our channel store. Let the one meant for you find its way to your wrist.